On the news this afternoon, reactions as presidency rules out reversal of petrol subsidy price hike. Civil servants renew calls for additional palliative buses in Rivers State. Former Governor Wike visits acting APC national chairman. Federal government to arraign suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele associates on Thursday. Federal government says no federal university is allowed to charge tuition fees. On the foreign scene, dozens dead as armed forces clash in Libya. I am Constance Mega with the news. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Tokpe Ajayi, says there are no plans by the administration of President Bola Tinubu to reintroduce fuel subsidy. Mr. Ajayi said this yesterday evening on social media platform known as X, previously called Twitter. He said, quote, "There is no plan to reintroduce any form of fuel subsidy. There is no condition to support any increase in prices for this time. President Tinubu is convinced, based on information before him, that we can maintain current pricing without reversing the current deregulation policy by swiftly cleaning up existing inefficiencies within the midstream and downstream petroleum sector." End of quote. Well, his comments followed news about a temporary reintroduction of the petrol subsidy following the increment in the landing cost of the product due to the free fall of the naira in the parallel market. When Nigeria has continued to grapple with the soaring costs of goods and services due to the removal of the subsidy on petrol and the unification of the naira at both the I&E window and parallel markets by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, on Monday, independent oil marketers hinted at a possible increase in the cost of fuel owing to the increment in the landing cost of the product. But yesterday, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelali, told State House correspondents that there will be no further increase in the pump price of petroleum products across the country. Well, he criticized the organized labor's agitation and threat to embark on a nationwide strike following the rumored price increase without research or confirmation of facts on the matter. Well, Mr. Ngelali said the petroleum deregulation policy of the government stands.
Mr. President wishes to assure Nigerians, following the announcement by the NNPC Limited, that there will be no increase in the pump price of the petroleum motor spirit anywhere in the country. We repeat, the President affirms that there will be no increase in the pump price of petroleum motor spirit.
Well, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity also said President Bola Tinubu is determined to maintain competitive tension within all subsector while ensuring that policies will not allow any single entity to dominate the market. He also presented a graphic representation to indicate that Nigeria has the lowest price of petrol per litre in the West African sub-region.
Senegal at pump price today of 1,273 naira equivalent per litre. Guinea at 1,075 naira per litre. Cote d'Ivoire at 1,048 naira per litre equivalent. Mali 1,113 naira per litre. Central African Republic 1,414 per litre. Nigeria is presently averaging between 568 and 630 naira per litre. We are presently the cheapest.
Well, he added that petrol consumption dropped from 67 million litres per day to 46 million litres daily consumption since the inception of subsidy removal. Meanwhile, the Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abuja Suleja, Mohammed Shuaibu, wants the presidency to learn from Kenya and allow fuel subsidy once again. He is quoted on the Punch newspaper as saying that it is Forex that largely determines the cost of petroleum products in Nigeria, and marketers are not willing to import products again. In the meantime, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has thrown its weight behind President Bola Tinubu's administration, saying it supports the president's economic policies. IPAC chairman Yabagi Sani said this in an interview with journalists after meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa on Tuesday. He said that irrespective of political party differences, the council recognizes the efforts of the current administration in addressing the challenges confronting the nation. Moving on, 1 month after the Rivers State government provided free buses as palliative to ease the pain of the petrol subsidy removal, some civil servants still want additional buses to be provided. Our correspondent who visited the Secretariat complex said although the palliative buses have been helpful, some workers who live in areas like Rumokoro, Rukwoku and Ikwere Road axis are yet to feel the impact of the palliative buses.
We don't have anyone for Ikwere Road, and it has been a serious challenge to people that are staying in Ikwere Road from Mawan to Rumokoro. We don't have our own here, so it's a serious challenge to us. And even just one, for the one that are going Aba Road and the Bodokri and the Ablom, at least they are trying.
Still need more from Secretariat to Rumokoro, from Secretariat to my 1, my 2, my 3. Civil servant needed about 5 buses that can reduce the suffering of civil servants. Even though myself, I only enjoy it about 2 times.
I stay at Borokri and then it's really helping because if you check it, my coming and going is 600 naira for the day.
For this palliative, you need the help any people living at Rumokoro from the Secretariat to Rumokoro. So we need more buses, at least we can benefit as others are benefiting.
Now, while speaking about some of the lapses they encounter and the mode of operation of these buses, the civil servants called on the state government to set up committees that will closely monitor these palliative buses.
Some of the drivers that are supposed to be here before 4 o'clock don't come at the time they're supposed to be here. So people will have to stand here waiting for them, like the one of Borokri Bar Road. Especially one of Borokri will stand here for a long time. At times he comes at that very 4 o'clock and then he would park. People will enter, sit down and be waiting for him to come and take off. He'll still be downstairs doing nothing.
If the government can go to an extra mile, creating maybe call it a task force to ensure that drivers come out on time, have a specific time for the buses to move, whether it's loaded or not, but ensure that the times are being kept. I think it will really work. Another thing is the condition of the vehicle. Most times they are problematic. It goes and it stops on the way and then people start looking for alternative. All those things should be put in consideration.
In another development, former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, has paid a congratulatory visit to the former Kano State governor, Abdullahi Ganduje, at his Abuja residence. The APC made this known in a post on X yesterday. It said former Governor Wike, a PDP member and now a minister designate, congratulated Mr. Ganduje on becoming the national chairman of the APC. Recall that Mr. Ganduje emerged the APC chairman on the 3rd of August at the 12th National Executive Committee meeting of the party held in Abuja after the controversial resignation of the former party chair, Abdullahi Adamu, and some NEC members of the party. Still to come, aviation, security, logistics employees embark on strike over pay. Stay tuned.
Sorrowful.
Staying with us, and now to the rest of the news. The federal government will tomorrow arraign the suspended Central Bank of Nigeria governor, Godwin Emefiele, and his associates for 6.9 billion naira procurement fraud at the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja. Mr. Emefiele will be arraigned alongside a female CBN employee, Saadatu Yaro, and her company on 20 charges of procurement fraud, conspiracy, and conferring corrupt advantages on his associates. The federal government has insisted that no federal university is allowed to charge tuition fees in the country. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, David Adejo, said this at a public hearing by the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Student Loans in Abuja on Tuesday. He said the recent increase in charges by the federal universities in the country is unfortunate. President Bola Tinubu says he is greatly saddened over the tragic loss of gallant officers and soldiers in a helicopter crash at Chokuba village in Niger State. The president said the military men were answering the call of duty while on an evacuation mission, but paid the ultimate price in their dedicated service to their beloved country. He described them as national heroes who remained courageous till death. The Rivers State Task Force on Sanitation says it carries out regular fumigation at its waste dump site along the Obirikwere Airport Road to mitigate smell and kill rodents. In an interview with correspondent Emeka Otuka, a media aide to the chairman of the task force, Olale Koige, said they are aware of the smell from the dump site but will continue to do their best to ensure that residents do not suffer any health challenges due to its operations at the dump site.
I also share some of the concerns of the residents, but the place is regularly fumigated. We fumigate to kill all rodents and reptiles. Another is also to ensure that the smell, emanating from the dump site is not as immense as they are saying at the moment. So we do everything humanly possible. Remember too, when that dump started operation, a lot of buildings that are there today were not there as at the time that dump site was acquired and was operational. We will continue to do our best to ensure that we do not suffer unduly, from the operations of that dump site.
Now, on the issue of the collection of money from scavengers to pick up recyclable waste at the dump, Mr. Aige said the task force is unaware of such practices.
No money is collected from anybody to operate the dump site. Remember that the dump site belongs to the Rivers State government and operated by the Rivers State Waste Management Agency. I'm not aware of anybody paying any money to anybody, and this is strange because I do not see any reason why anybody will collect money for you to say come and use the dump site, or come and use the dump site to collect recyclables and all of that. If they have any evidence pertaining to that, please, they should kindly forward it.
Well, recall that those living around the area are calling on the government to shut down the dump site due to the stench that lingers miles away from the site. In business, the National Union of Air Transport Employees, NUATE, has directed the aviation security and logistics subsector to begin an immediate strike from today over their monthly pay. General Secretary of NUATE, Ocheme Abba, in a circular said that aviation security and logistics personnel, who are mostly graduates, are paid a paltry 30,000 naira monthly. He explained that all efforts to negotiate improved wages for their members in the past had failed. In entertainment, singer Pato Rankin is set to release a new album he calls World Best. Well, World Best, which will be released on the 6th of September, is Pato Rankin's first album in 3 years after the release of his 2020 album 3, which delivered the hit track Abule. In sports, Harry Maguire's move to West Ham is off, with the defender intent on staying at Manchester United to fight for his place in the first team. Maguire struggled for first team opportunities last season and was stripped of the captaincy this season. But United have maintained they would respect his wishes and do not want to push him out of the club.
And now we bring you news from around the world.
Libyan medical sources say clashes between two powerful armed factions in Tripoli have killed 27 people and wounded more than 100 others. Violence broke out late on Monday after the Special Deterrence Force seized a commander of the 444 Brigade. It subsided after the commander was released on Tuesday evening. The fighting shattered months of relative calm in Tripoli. Recall that a 2020 ceasefire brought a measure of peace to Libya, but factionalism constantly threatens to upset it. Well, that's the news, but before we go, another look at the highlights of the major stories on the news this afternoon. You heard that stakeholders have been speaking as the presidency rules out reversal of petrol subsidy or price increase. Civil servants have renewed calls for additional palliative buses in Rivers State. Former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike visited the APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje. The federal government will tomorrow arraign suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele and associates over fraud. Now, the federal government says no federal university is allowed to charge tuition fees. And on the foreign scene, dozens dead as armed forces clash in Libya. The news was edited by Martha Okerenkem. Mostly cloudy weather in Port Harcourt this afternoon. To contact the news team, you can send an SMS, call or WhatsApp 0808 721 7215. And remember, peace is the path to the prosperity.